In this video, I want to explain how Hans Peter Secker was able to fool Penn and Teller. For those who don't know, Penn and Teller are two famous magicians and they have a show in which they invite magicians to perform tricks and they have to guess how the trick was performed. And if they don't guess how the trick was performed, they lose and they have to hand out a trophy to the magician, and the magician gets to perform in their show in Las Vegas. So this trick was performed in season 8, episode 7, and I put a link in the description below to a YouTube video that shows how the trick was done. So maybe that would be a good moment to go and see what the trick is and come back. So for those who looked at the video, this will be just a quick recap. For those who didn't want to look at the video, is how the trick was done. So Hans Peter Secker sent a box with props to Penn, Teller, and Allison. Allison is the host of the show. And in the box there were props representing a rock, a piece of paper, and scissors. And there was instruction in the box asking Penn to pick up the rock, Teller the scissors, and Allison the piece of paper. And as in the game of rock, paper, scissors, rock beats scissors, scissors beat paper, and paper beats rock. Now this was done over video because it was during the COVID epidemics. They couldn't have a live show. So Hans Peter Secker was on camera on video conference, and he asked Penn and Teller to Penn, Teller, and Allison, to do one switch, whatever they wanted. They could have switched the rock for the scissors for the paper for the rock, doesn't matter. And Hans Peter Secker predicted that after that switch, Teller would beat Penn. So after the switch, what happened is that Allison and Penn switched, and then they ended up with Penn at the paper, Allison the rock, and Teller kept the scissors, and indeed Teller was beating Penn. Now there was the second step was they had to do two switches. They could do whatever they wanted, but they had to do two switches of the props. And at the end, Penn had the rock, Teller had a piece of paper, and Allison had the scissors. And finally, they had to do three switches. And here, Penn and Teller just were a bit tricky. They just switched back and forth the rock and the paper. So they switched the rock to the paper, paper to the rock, switched back, and then switched again. And they ended up the final configuration with Penn having the piece of paper, Teller the rock, and Allison the scissors. And well, the trick was that in the piece of paper that was given to Allison, it was a huge piece of paper. If you unfolded it, you had the prediction that at the end of the trick, Penn would beat Teller, Teller would beat Allison, and Allison would beat Penn. So how could the magician do that? Of course, the magicians tried to make them believe that he was able to predict the future, but of course this is not possible. So what he did is he used a math and the symmetry of the configurations we have here to do his predictions. Okay, now let's see how the trick was done. The idea is that once you've decided that you want to have three people holding the different props, you basically only have two ways of getting the beat relationships between them. So either you will have this, or you will go the other way. So that's pretty easy to see because the rock and the paper and the scissors have this relationship. If you have the scissors, you have the rock, and you have the piece of paper. And the rock beats the scissors beat the paper, and the paper beats the rock. So you have a cycle here. So you have something that's symmetric on their rotation, if you want. The only way to change this relationship is to flip it. If you reflect it along this axis, you will get the scissors, the paper, and the rock. And the scissors will beat the paper, the rock will beat the scissors, and the paper will beat the rock. So you can go either go clockwise or counterclockwise. There's no other choice. And the way to change direction is not to rotate these things, but is to switch two of them. So now you see that when the magician asked Penn and Teller to switch objects, he basically asked them to go from this cycle to this cycle. And once you've determined what type of cycles you start in, then automatically each switch you just reverse it. So let's see how this works in greater details. So if you have, for example, you put a rock in here. Well, now you only have two ways of arranging the other two objects. You can have the scissors here and a piece of paper, or you can have the piece of paper here and the scissors here. Note that if I switch everything clockwise, counterclockwise here, we still have the same relationship. It doesn't matter that we have the rock, the scissors, and the paper. It could be paper, rock, scissors. It would work the same. And the same here. We can switch it clockwise and have the same relationship hold. So each time they asked somebody to switch, they went from this type of cycle to this type of cycle. And if you're in this type of cycle, you know that this one would be this one. Let's just say this is Penn, Teller, and Allison. So you know that Penn beats Teller, who beats Allison, who beats Penn. So when you start, if you give the prop to the people in a certain order, you know that after one switch, you will go to the other type of cycle, where Penn will beat Allison, who will beat Teller, who would beat Penn. So basically, each time the magicians asked them to do one switch, they only went from one type of cycle to the other type of cycle, and he knew exactly who would beat who, even if he didn't know who would hold which prop. Because all a switch does is flip the direction of rotation in the cycle. And that's how he tricked Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller didn't guess it. They guessed that he had many predictions written everywhere, and he could have asked Penn and Teller to look at the prediction, let's say at the bottom of the box, or he would have different props he could show on screen with different predictions depending on what happened on stage, but that's not the case. And that's it for today.